Hello and welcome to another episode of Scenes from a Podcast with your hosts, Pikiss-Chris.
And your other host, Bastard Swordsman.
Yeah, so first we're going to talk about what we've been up to lately, and then we'll get into today's thrilling film. So, Mr. Swordsman, anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, I recently started reading another series of light novels because I can't get enough of those. Been on a real kick lately, called Zaregoto, which in English means nonsense. And I'm on the second book, and basically it's sort of a murder mystery series where each volume is a different arc. Well, some arcs are a couple volumes, and there's like a different mystery, like different circumstances. But it's kind of different because it doesn't focus on the mystery so much as like the characters and specifically the main character so far. And the main character is basically like a complete sociopath.
I love me stories about sociopaths.
And it's one of the earlier sort of big light novels because it started in, I believe, 2002. Way before the modern age of anime, I guess you could say. And it's actually the first work from Nisio Isin, which is a pen name, but that's the guy who did the Monogatari series, if you know that.
I'm afraid I do not. Let me look that up. Because I feel like I've heard about it somewhere before.
Yeah, the Monogatari series, I mean, to anyone who's not familiar or deeply familiar with Monogatari, it's just the anime with the toothbrush scene.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's where I've heard of it before. Memes. Yeah.
But definitely like the main character of Zaragoto, like I'm not too far. I'm only towards the end of the second volume, and there are 9 volumes, although a 10th volume was recently released after like 18 years. Even though it was supposedly finished for a long time. But like it has one of the most detestable and unlikable anime main characters, probably.
And that's by design, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's very interesting. I wasn't really too into the first volume, but the second volume's a lot better, in my opinion, because in the first volume, a lot of the side characters are these sort of like very eccentric, like, typical anime characters, like with odd, philosophies and quirks and like, catchphrases. And they don't really seem like real people, but the second volume's a lot better because you get to see the main character interact with actual, like, sort of normal people. So it also made me appreciate the first volume a little more, but the second volume's a lot better, I think.
Yeah. There does, I mean, I don't know if this is like a stereotype or anything, but they do tend to be more dialogue focused over there in Japan when it comes to like writing. So like I feel like characters over there like having cartoonishly overdefined personal philosophies is kind of like a consequence of that.
Yeah. But like, yeah, the main character is like completely spineless and like he's like very like bland, but at the same time, all of his inner thoughts are like extremely hostile towards other people, and he just doesn't say them. Like he's the opposite of a tsundere.
Yeah. I do like the idea of like an inner voice that like shows that somebody who seems like very average is actually very mean-spirited and insecure and whatnot. I think that's like an interesting reason to have like a POV character, you know.
It's also the only light novel I've read so far, I believe, that's in first person. The other ones I've read have been in third person, but Nisio Isin in general tends to write from first person more often.
Yeah.
Mm. I don't know. That's kind of all that I have to say about it. I'll have more to say about it as I get through it, but it's very interesting, even though the first volume didn't completely grip me. But one of my friends is like a massive fan of it, and it's one of their like favorite stories ever. So,
So did like they recommend it to you or
um, yeah, but I just kind of knew it was one of their favorites, and that sort of just interested me because I wanted to also talk about it with them.
maybe I'll give it a go one of these days when I have a job that
Mhm.
sucks less. But yeah, anything else or
Um, I also started reading this novel called Infinite Jest.
Infinite Jest?
Yeah, I had to check the author again. It's by David Foster Wallace, and it's considered to be like one of the big, great postmodernist novels or whatever. It's like from the 90s, but yeah, I don't really know how to describe it. But I don't know. One thing that I had kept hearing about it was that there's this plot point about a movie in the book called The Entertainment, and people become so fascinated with the movie that they don't do anything else. They just sit there and watch it and rewatch it. And then, like, because they're just sitting there watching it over and over again, they eventually die from like starvation and all that.
That really says a lot about society.
It really does.
Yeah. And yet, here we are.
We live in one.
Yeah.
That's Oh, one more interesting thing that I saw recently was a movie called After Sun. It came out last year. It's directed by Charlotte Wells, and it has a Best Actor nomination at the Oscars. Probably, it honestly deserved more than that, but um, although the lead actor, Paul Mescal, his performance is very good and also very subtle. So it's not like a sort of typical Oscar Beatty performance, but it's a very good and emotional movie that I would recommend. And I don't really want to say any more about it.
Yeah. All right then. Well,
Yeah.
we may look at that film later on this list if we decide to do so. I guess I'll share. Uh, I bought at a bookstore both Paradise Lost and The Divine Comedy because I don't know, I just decided on a whim to buy them. And I'm trying to like understand how to read it when like one is written in very archaic English, technically still modern English, but still like with the grammar and the word choice and whatnot. And then one
You know,
is originally written in Latin, I think.
well, I thought it was Italian.
Italian, Latin. I wasn't sure whether or not Italian was invented back then, but
Okay, okay.
so I just decided to say Latin instead because I know they're it's the same fucking peninsula. So, but
I mean,
that one's written in Italian and translated into archaic English, and I'm like trying to read both of these books and trying to appreciate them as they were written, and also like having to look up guides on like what the fuck they're even saying half the time so I can appreciate what's actually going on.
yeah, I looked it up and it was Italian.
Okay, well then. I'm so sorry, Italy. If I could ever make it up to you, I love you guys. I love Catholicism and pizza. We owe so much to you.
Yeah, and Mussolini.
Yeah, him too. He contributed quite a bit to Western culture. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. But yeah, no, despite everything, I am enjoying the book so far. Uh, was also like r- listening to like audio recordings of Paradise Lost, narrated by Ian McDermott, uh, because of course, and it boggles my mind how he's able to like understand when a sentence ends because
Well,
it's
that's what periods are for.
yeah, but like they don't. But like, here's the thing: they don't have periods in the places like where you'd expect them to have periods when it comes to like normal grammar, because this is like I'm gonna sound really
Uh,
dumb when I say this. This is like poetry grammar. So I'm reading this and it's like, wow, this is a long ass sentence. This is a straight up run on. And then I listen to like him reading it, and it's like, wait, that's where the sentence ends? Those are two completely
are
different
these like commas
sentences?
or something?
Not that I can remember, but
Oh, I have I have always been interested in actually both of those, Paradise Lost and The Divine Comedy, and I like to read them both at some point myself.
yeah. Maybe I'm just too dumb for this real literature. I should go back to my fucking
SCP light novel.
yeah, SCP light novel. God help me, I'm back on my bullshit. I'm writing shitty skips that I will never post to the website, but
Mm,
maybe if I actually have a fan base, I'll show them off one day, which hopefully I don't get a fan base, so.
well, you kind of have to put stuff out there to establish a fan base.
That is true. That is very true. Anyways, so today's film is the A24 Arthurian film based on the story of the same name, The Green Knight. And it's basically about, uh, I think he's King Arthur's cousin, and his metaphorical journey to come to grips with his own mortality. So, yeah. Uh, spoilers. No, not spoilers yet, but
Yes, spoilers. Spoilers for The Green Knight.
yeah, later on spoilers, but not right now spoilers. I'm just gonna come out and say that I really like this film. Uh, and so I was familiar in broad strokes with the original story. I never read it, obviously, but I knew how it originally ended, and I thought I knew how it was going to end here because I was familiar with it, but it ended on sort of a more ambiguous note, which I felt. You still there?
Yeah.
Okay, then. I'm not sure what that noise was. Anyways, it ended on a more ambiguous note than I was expecting, and I think it worked in the film's favor because it actually reinforced the themes that that the whole thing was about rather than just being like a cop out.
Hmm.
Yeah. So what did you think of it?
Um, well, this was my second viewing. I remember liking it a good amount on my first viewing. Um, I mean, it's a good film. I'm not like crazy in love with it, but it definitely has elements to appreciate. There are some things that I'm not really too big a fan of. Like I don't know, but like for the most part, like the theming, is pretty solid, I would say. Definitely a lot to do with not just like death, but also like a guy trying to find his place in the world, honor, like trying to make a name for himself.
Cultural
Like,
perceptions of honor.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he has that one little sort of girlfriend of his. Um, he- it's also sort of like kind of a character study because he's a very weak-willed character throughout a lot of the story. Like he doesn't really want to face death. He also has commitment issues because like he can't like commit to his like girlfriend. Um, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole film is, to me, is basically about this guy who's been, because he's royalty, raised to view himself in a certain way and to view the world in a certain way, where things like he's very much a product of his time. He believes in like knightly chivalry and courtly duty and all of that, but he doesn't necessarily live up to that
Yeah,
because I'm not sure if this was like the intention, but I got the impression that his girlfriend was like a prostitute, and that,
I think she is.
yeah,
Yeah,
like he's dating a prostitute, but behind his mother's back and behind the rest of his family's back, and she wants the relationship to be
she wants
more.
to him. She wants him to make her his lady.
Yeah, he she wants it to be more intimate, more real, more emotional, but he's clearly just in it for the sex.
Mm.
And 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 then the Green Knight sort of shows up, and he sees this as like his big chance to basically prove himself, though he doesn't really understand the situation he's in. He just This guy comes in and he's like, "Hey, let's do this game, this sort of pseudo battle together." It's not even like to show off his like innate skill, or even if he even has skill. It's like the dude basically offers up his neck to be chopped off, and without any resistance, and he just like lobs it off. It's not it doesn't really prove anything other than I am a man now. I have killed something.
Yeah. Kind of weird that it's called the Green Knight, but he dies like 10 minutes in.
Yeah. Obviously, he comes back to life. Well, I mean, he never
Oh, he
died.
didn't die.
He
Yeah.
didn't die.
Yeah, he
He
takes his head back.
Yeah, he's basically this nature spirit. He represents the world as it is organically, whereas
Well,
like
he
where
also sort of just represents death in general because there's that line about green, like being all that's left when we die, because it's like a metaphor for how after people die and they decompose and sink into the earth, um all that remains is like the grass and stuff growing over them.
yeah.
So
And it's a very interesting motif too because most people associate grass and greenery with life,
yeah.
but here it's like it's associated with death very early on. The first time we see like green grass in the film is when he's like placing his axe down in the middle of Arthur's courtroom, and it sort of springs up out of the stone around it. And I like that during the montage when he's getting ready to go meet his destiny, one of the scenes we see is them looking into the cupboard or the casing that they put the axe in, and it's been like completely overtaken by grass. I think it's just a really neat visual.
Yeah. um this film has, I mean for a big epic fantasy film, the budget isn't like too high. It's like 15 million, like pretty typical of A24. And it actually did make a bit of money, surprisingly, even though the audience for this would seem kind of niche. But like a sort of a fantasy story, but with a very like modern presentation with sort of like weird, surreal aspects. Um, but yeah, it is kind of interesting that this proves that you can make a fantasy adventure tale with a medium, like modest budget.
Yeah, I mean, most of the film, I mean, the big showstopper, the Green Knight is like he's a practical effect. I think he's like a guy in makeup, and the makeup looks really good. But most of the other effects in the film are, I think, digital, and well, they don't
Yeah.
they don't look spectacular. I think like they do a good job like showing the limitations of the CGI by shooting it from far away or like having it cast in shadow.
Pretty sure the fox was CG.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the foxes
But
the
he didn't
foxes
actually look
definitely.
that bad.
Yeah. It looked decent, but for the
At least not.
most of the film it's like shot from like kind of far away, like in wide shots, and we don't
Mm.
really see close-ups or its face until like the climax of the film or just before the climax.
Wasn't really too big on the giant naked people. That looked pretty goofy
Yeah.
and just was kind of goofy.
I don't think that scene really added anything to the film other than
Mm.
being esoteric. I don't really think it tied into other to the themes or whatnot in the way the other scenes did. It was just like,
So it was an excuse to have weird naked people in an A24 movie.
yeah, exactly. Which I mean, if I wanted to see weird naked people in an A24 film, I'd see Midsummer.
They don't call it Midsummer for nothing.
I'll take your word for it. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we didn't really say, but after I always thought it was pronounced Gawain, but in the movie they call it Gawain. Maybe that's the correct pronunciation, or it's another like from another A24 movie we saw. But um, yeah, after he chops his head, the knight's like 1 year hence, and that's supposed to mean in a year he's supposed to seek out the Green Knight, and then the Green Knight's going to return the blow to him. Of course, you'd know this if you knew about the old story. But, it is like an interesting setup to an adventure because he's like going
I think
through
you're.
all these like perilous like escapades, just like what?
I was gonna say I think your mic cut off there for a second.
Oh, I don't- hopefully not.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's going through all these like perilous escapades just to reach like what he might presume is death. And like, it's just death. Like, obviously, logically, if you have an axe swing at your neck, you'd die. And there's just a lot of anxiety surrounding death a lot. Um, there's that one scene where he gets tied up by the bandits and like the camera like rotates very slowly in a circular motion, and it like pans to him, and then it cuts away, and it turns the camera turns to the right, and then suddenly the skeleton appears. um yeah, like he's shown dead, but then it turns to the left, and that's sort of a metaphor, I think, for like rewinding time, like sort of like fourth wall break there.
Yeah. I got the sense that that was just like him, like his imagination running wild with like worst case scenarios if he's stuck there for too long. I will say one of the this is from the same scene. I do like that when he tries to like cut himself loose on his sword, he actually like cuts his fingers.
Yeah,
It's like that
actually
never
realistic.
that never happens in films, at least not any like mainstream films where it's like, yeah, you would cut yourself because you can't see what you're rubbing up against,
Yeah.
you know?
I think that's just also a metaphor for just the inescapable presence of death. Even if he weren't to meet the Green Knight, time would slowly pass on, just like how the camera moves very slowly, but death is inescapable, like, because time marches on and eventually he'll die of some sort of causes, natural or otherwise.
Yeah.
And there's another, like, that's sort of another motif of, like, that's a bit more subtle, but with time, like, there, towards the beginning of the film, he says he has plenty of time to become a knight.
I think hold on. Fuck. I thought I had something to add to that. Uh
Mm.
Another thing I like is just the way people prior to him going on his journey, they treat it as him like, well, of course you're going to come back a heroic and changed man. This is your coming of age story, and nobody like even they're so like culturally set in this world of like proving yourself through violence and chivalry and knighthood and all that they think somehow he's gonna, even though explicitly the knight says to everyone in the room, including Arthur himself, who also believes this, that 1 year hence I will return the blow to you that you did to me. Everyone thinks that he's gonna like come back alive and a hero and a changed man. They don't consider the possibility that death is actually like something that's real in this scenario.
I don't really know if that's sort of like that's like a key takeaway or like an intentional piece of theming, just in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely does seem like they're very lax about the whole thing to me though, cuz they even got like a puppet show going on as in like the background where it's like he's constantly lopping off the Green Knight's head for the
Yeah,
entertainment of the little kiddies, and they've got little confetti blood coming out of him, and it's sort of funny, but it also just sort of shows how, to me at least, how like diluted this whole society is.
one of the probably the most memorable part to me during the actual adventure uh, or the most memorable location is definitely when he's at that house and um, the film doesn't really make it as explicit, but that like dude who's at that like little mansion is also supposed to be the Green Knight in disguise.
You see, I thought that was like fairly obvious to me at least.
Yeah.
Like that was like my first guess like, "Oh, that's obviously the Green Knight." And the twist is that he's going to reveal himself to be the Green Knight. And they never actually like explicitly reveal him to be so, but they never not confirm it either.
I think in the original story it was more explicit.
Yeah.
It's funny how he says that whatever he receives, he has to return, and then he receives a hand job, and then when he's about to leave, the guy kisses him, makes it sound like he wants something in return.
Yeah. Okay.
Like that's what he's talking about. I know that's probably unintentional or maybe not, but it was
I
still funny.
I think it's kind of intentional cuz it's like I'm not sure if this is the case, but I sort of got the sense that there was like this misdirection that they were going for where they thought like it was supposed to be super obvious that he's the Green Knight in disguise as a human, and then the reveal would be that he's the Green Knight and the audience is just waiting for that reveal.
Yeah.
But instead the reveal is that he has romantic sexual feelings for the guy whose head he's gonna chop. Like that's what I got out of it. Like, oh, okay. Which I'm not sure if
Like,
I'm just dumb and I didn't actually like pick up on any like actual homoerotic subtext until it was like spelled out for me. But like,
uh, well, obviously, he was referring to the ribbon thing that he was given.
oh, I didn't even that didn't even like factor in. I was so like bamboozled by the kiss, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do like the fact that the Green Knights or the human, whatever the film is going for, his daughter, uh, sort of seems to be like testing his faithfulness to his girlfriend. Like
Was that his daughter?
I got the sense that was his daughter. Yeah,
I thought it was supposed to be his like wife or something.
his daughter is his wife. You know what? I think I like. You know what? I think it was supposed to be that like the older woman, the one who doesn't talk, is like the grandmother, but my mind edited her to be his wife, and then his actual wife, his daughter.
Mm.
I saw this movie like 2 weeks ago. Some of the details are fuzzy. But
I literally watched it just this morning before recording.
oh my god. You're a lot better at this than me. But regardless, I do like the fact that it's sort of again like it's sort of like testing his faithfulness, his commitment because again, he's coming from this very Christian, very religious background of like monogamy and marriage and that being the only acceptable avenue for like sexuality or whatever. And despite the fact that he's with a woman who clearly has feelings that go beyond just the sexual and who he who has explicitly said to him wants to start an actual committed relationship with him, he just sees her as a quick lay, and he sees this new woman, this married woman, as a quick lay too, and sort of allows himself to be seduced by her
Yeah,
without
he
any,
fails.
yeah, you know, yeah. He's
Um, anything you want to talk about before we get to the ending
let me
of
see.
the film?
I think we already talked about the giant scene and how pointless it was.
Yeah,
Um, oh,
I don't really,
I also really
I
like
don't really
this.
have that much to say. Sorry about the scene with like the ghost girl and him getting her head from the lake or whatever.
Yeah. I do think it was a legitimately creepy scene.
Yeah,
Like I just love the idea of you holding something or interacting with something and it isn't what you think it is when you're looking at it. Like he knows obviously that he's holding a decapitated head that he's like retrieved out of the lake for this girl. It isn't until he like sees it again as he walks into the back into the room to give it to her that he realizes that it's rotted down to just like a skull. Like the only thing left is like the thin hairs on it, and like the woman who he first met in the bedroom is just a she's just a corpse now. She's not like an animate ghost or anything. It's just like a really creepy scene. I like it.
also there it does kind of like have the motif of a decapitated head,
Yeah.
same with the Green Knight and all that.
Yeah. That is a very important motif in this movie, getting your head cut off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
You go
I know
first.
the ending is like a bit different than how it plays out in the original story. Oh, I didn't mention this. I think it's funny how they say the story of Gawain and the Green Knight by Anonymous. 4chan wrote this.
Yeah. I mean, it actually is historically anonymous though, because
Yeah.
nobody back then bothered to fucking take credit for anything.
They weren't as obsessed with clout as people are now.
Yeah.
But I think it's just funny that they included the author, even though he was anonymous.
Yeah. I will
Um,
say you go first.
oh,
Spoilers for me.
well, ending spoilers.
Yeah.
Um, the original story, I know the main theme is about honesty, basically, and how that's an important part of chivalry. Um, because he gets there and just like the Green Knight is about to, take the swing of the axe, and then immediately he just stops him and then takes off the ribbon lace thing, whatever little belt thing, and he's like, "Okay, now do it." And then the Green Knight is like, "Wow, this was a test of your character, and you passed. So I'm not actually going to kill you because now you're actually a good man, so you shouldn't die." Basically, like I haven't actually read the story. I probably haven't done the research that I should have for this episode, but um, I don't know if like the belt or whatever actually has the power to keep his head from getting cut off, or if it was just a lie and he would have actually gotten his head cut off if the axe swung at his neck. But either way, he's like spared. But in the film, there's the big section where he does like run away and he like lives out his life, and he becomes like king apparently, and he has kids and he like fights and stuff, does battle, but then his castle is sieged and he's presumably killed and also decapitated. And it like definitely my takeaway was that that like actually I don't know what my takeaway is yet.
I think that it's basically coming down to the idea that he's reflecting on the idea of what if I did manage to live through this and sort of live up to the expectations that everyone has of me. And it's sort of him realizing that he really can't do that because of the sort of person he is.
I think yeah, that's definitely a big part of it. Like the person, like living out his life as the person he is, he his life wouldn't really end very happily. Um, so he sees that sort of, dishonorable life and dishonorable character, like, especially since he's just going to end up like dying anyway, eventually, he might as well, die with honor. So it leans more into the honor bit, but by being honest about the little like magic belt ribbon thing, uh, he does like try to be a more honorable man by doing that. And the first time I saw the film, I thought it was like ambiguous as to whether or not he actually gets his head sliced off. But like watching it again, I mean, I don't, I don't really know if he does get his head cut off because the Green Knight just makes the sort of motion along his neck with his thumb, and that's it. Like, it, I mean, I guess you could kind of infer that it just ends there, and that's the sort of like quote unquote decapitation. But I guess it doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, I think that I think there's the heavy implication that unlike in the original story where he lets him live because of his honesty, that even though he's still proven himself, he still has to like commit to it now, and the Green Knight's going to like kill him, but now his death has something resembling honor to it. Or you could
I think
just
that's why it doesn't matter if he cuts his head off or not, because that's sort of just the point.
yeah. Yeah.
And that's why it ends there. You don't need anything else after that.
Yeah. It basically like it leaves it open to interpretation because and I guess like leaving it open like that it's a definite improvement because if it was just a definite okay, I'm gonna let you live, it'd have been kind of a cop out considering what the rest of the movie is about and the
Yeah.
tone of the rest of the movie. So you know, I'd say this. I don't think this is surprising anyone, but I'd say this is definitely a much better story than the original, just because it's like adapted to like
Mm.
focus on things that are actually, relevant universally throughout time, like mortality and expectations of yourself, than it is about like chivalry.
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, everyone would be honest and chivalrous, but eh, yeah, we don't live in that world now. Well,
That really says a lot about
about
society.
society, yeah, never mind. I'm just being stupid. It's more just about the themes of like death and mortality and achieving something. And even though, you know, we don't live, in a period of like knighthood and all that, people still want to achieve great things for themselves today. And, this really speaks to that.
And men are still whoremongers.
Yeah, very true.
That is it's incredibly true. Anyways, yeah.
I feel, I do not feel very good about my commentary on this. Do you have anything else to say?
I feel like you did a better job than I did. Honestly, you like filled in the gaps where I was just sitting there like,
Uh, I felt like I was doing that too, but it's probably just both of us.
yeah. Uh, I don't really have much else to say about this film. I will say, uh, again, because I haven't seen Midsummer yet, this is probably the my favorite A24 film I've seen so far, which I know it's just a distribution company, but let's be honest here, at this point it still has like kind of a brand thing now going on with it too.
I
Uh
mean, yeah, well, there are definitely like A24 tropes, and this definitely has some of those like sort of A24 isms.
yeah, like naked people. But
Yeah.
regardless of all the jokes I could make about it or whatnot, it's a very solid film. It's I didn't have time to talk about the cinematography, but it's some of the best looking cinematography I've seen in a long time. With just the way it implements the colors and the set pieces and shows the scale of the landscapes he's walking to, while also like not cluttering it with all this unnecessary detail. Everything you see in the film is like a detail that's worth noticing. So anyway, I like this film a lot, and I would recommend that people. I bought it on DVD, uh, and I'd recommend you do the same. I'm not sure where it's streaming, but let me look that up actually.
I will actually check right now. It's okay, let me see. It's only on a service called Fubo TV, which is like a Showtime thing or something. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but not like any big streaming site. It's not on Netflix or Hulu or anything like that. Although you can buy it on Amazon digitally, or you can, of course, buy it like physically.
I do think it would be pretty fucking funny if it was on Disney Plus
Yeah.
next to live
Pete's
action
Dragon.
Aladdin. Yeah.
Well, the director of the film, David Lowery, did direct a Disney film, a live action Disney film, Pete's Dragon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's
he's directing another movie like about Peter Pan this year.
Isn't Pete's Dragon one of like the few actually good like live action remakes or whatever? Like people had a lot
I
of
don't
good
know.
reviews.
Well, I don't. I don't think it was originally an animated film, even. Well, I could just totally be wrong. I just don't remember there being, at least not a feature length Disney animated movie about Pete's Dragon. But apparently, the Pete's Dragon David Lowery is like decent. I have no idea. I haven't seen it.
Well, from Disney, I'll take decent because that company has really gone down the shitter.
Yeah.
But anyways,
Um.
we liked this film. We recommend you buy it digitally or get a Blu-ray or DVD copy. And next episode, Bastard
Um.
Swordsman.
I did not actually give my recommendation. I did not actually say give my including thoughts
Concluding
on this.
thoughts.
So
Okay.
yeah, I will give those first. So I definitely wouldn't say this is my favorite A24 movie. That would be Uncut Gems easily.
Oh, that. Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a decent movie. I kind of enjoyed it a bit more on my first watch, just, enjoying the journey and not knowing what to expect. Um, it's not a bad movie. The cinematography is good. There was that one shot where he was just walking along like the rocky field or whatever, and the camera just like spun upside down. That felt kind of pointless. I don't know. Maybe there was some sort of point to it, and I'm just stupid. But I don't know. I don't know. I guess I just don't really have that much to say about it, and it's not really a film where I'm like constantly analyzing or thinking about it, but it's enjoyable and I would recommend it. I'd give it like a strong 6 or light 7 or something, but yeah, it was good.
I definitely give it a 9 out of 10. Uh,
Hmm.
I'm probably just being easily impressed, but uh, I can't really think of anything that would like duct it a point like significantly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Bastard Swordsman now has next week's recommendation in his hands. So
Yes. My recommendation is something I feel every day when I wake up in the morning, which is Shame from 1968, directed by Ingmar Bergman.
Fame.
Shame, Shame. You missed the joke.
Oh, shame. Sorry.
Yeah,
Shame. Jesus. Well,
Swedish movie from 1968.
alrighty then. Next time we will be seeing Shame, and we may even say things that are shameful. Uh, until then, thank you for listening in, and goodbye.
Keep
Have
yourself safe.
yeah. Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
All right. Goodbye.